call this meeting of the General Forum for January 27th, 2025 to order. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next up, please call the roll.
Mr. Belchandran?
Here.
Mr. Hayes? Mr. Herndon? Mr. Kasab? Here. Mr. Krishnakudi?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Present.
Mr. Courtney? Here. Mr. Bernier?
Here.
Mr. Best? Here. Mr. Frank? Here. Ms. Mariner?
Here.
Ms. Trainer?
Here.
Mr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Ms. Strickland?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Beck? Ms. Hartle?
Here.
Ms. Perkins?
Here.
Mr. Piper? Mr. Cervello?
Here.
Mr. Hameister? Here. Mr. Hardin?
Here.
Mr. Lord? Here. Ms. Moriarty?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Abrams? Ms. Hycheski?
Here.
Mr. Magruder?
Here.
Ms. Robb?
Here.
And Ms. Whitman?
Here.
Why's Ferguson
Okay,
so scattered through?
Next on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move to the COG meeting etiquette presentation by Ben Estelle.
Good evening, everybody. Most of us have been through this through one committee or another thus far, but as it is the first meeting of the year for the General Forum, just make sure that everybody is still aware that COG has a meeting etiquette policy that has been approved by this body, and everybody is expected to follow that policy while you are in the COG forum room in your meeting. If there are any questions on the policy, please make sure to get in touch with a staff member and we can review that policy with you.
Okay, next up is the COG Articles of Agreement, General Forum Responsibilities. Mr. Estelle.
Again, with the Articles of Agreement, everybody here is a seasoned veteran. You are familiar at this point with the Articles of Agreement. Are there any questions on the general purpose of the General Forum or the rules thereof? If you do have some, please feel free once again to get in touch with a staff member and we would be happy to review those with you. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is nomination of officers. Mr. Estelle.
Thank you. COG Articles of Agreement require that the General Forum annually select a chair and a vice chair, and further state that officers shall be elected at the Center Region COG's organizational meeting from the membership of the General Forum and shall hold office for 1 year from the organizational meeting until their respective successors have been duly elected. The agreement does not recommend a special rotation of officers among the participating municipalities. However, the General Forum acted in 1999 to formalize a rotation schedule. COG chair and vice chair automatically serve as their municipality's representative to the executive committee unless otherwise selected. In 2025, it is Ferguson Township's turn to have a board member serve as COG chair, and Patton Township's turn to have a board member serve as vice chair. And you can follow along with the sequence in the agenda packet. The motion as approved by the Executive Committee at its January 21st, 2025 meeting states that the Executive Committee appoints Jeremy Thompson from Ferguson Township as chair and Sutan Magruder from Patton Township as vice chair of the Executive Committee for 2025. In accordance with the approved rotation, to proceed with the appointment of the 2025 chair and vice chair for the Center Region COG, the General Forum should consider approving the following motion as recommended by the Executive Committee. That the General Forum appoints Jeremy Thompson from Ferguson Township as chair and Sutan Magruder from Patton Township as vice chair of the Center Region Council of Governments for a term beginning January 27th, 2025, and ending with the General Forum's first meeting during January 2026.
Move that motion.
You make the motion. Second? Who made the second?
Whitman.
Okay. Any discussion? It's been, the motion's been made and seconded Call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And I will then turn over the gavel to Jeremy.
Thank you. All right. Thank you again, Ron, and we'll move on to item 6, a recognition award. And I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Cervello for his contributions to the Center Region COG as our chair for this past year. I do believe we had, yes, we do have a token of appreciation to present to you on behalf of
Thank you.
the General Forum, and just allow you opportunity if you wanted to share any few words.
Okay, just a few.
Just
Thank you, by the way, for the recognition. I really appreciate that. Hadn't expected anything. But just wanted to say that 2024 was, being the chair of COG is not an easy job. And so no job is easy when you try to do it the right way. And I did my best. We had some significant things happen during the year. We've had some appointments. In particular, we had the resignation of the previous executive director and the search and determination on a new executive director, Ben Estelle, and I'm sure we have all come to appreciate his being the executive chair, the executive director of the COG, and we look forward to all the good things that are going to happen under his charge. So there were a lot of issues we dealt with in the past year, and I think some difficult things we had to do. And I think all in all, we moved through the year in the normal course as previous chairs and COG general forums and committees have done in the past. So with that, I'll just say thank you, and good. I wish you the best for the coming year, and I hope that things are successful and things, you do well. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
thank you. Appreciate it. And congratulations again. All right. Item 7, does anyone have any new agenda items to present to the chair? Seeing none, we have consent agenda item number 8, which will include the approval of minutes, the resolution 2025-1 record disposition, annual appointments, appointment of the Center Region Fire Marshals, General Forum meeting dates, and yep, and that will be all for the first consent agenda item, where all municipalities should vote on the motion.
Lamari, second.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Portney, seconded by Mr. Patterson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
Did you call for discussion?
I did not call for discussion, though. It's my understanding we don't call for discussion on consent agenda items unless somebody wanted to pull something. Did it?
Thank you.
All right. I was going to say, if there's no objections, I can move on, Then we'd have item 9, consent agenda 2, which will apply to all except for Half Moon and Harris Township, and that's just the confirmation of the Alpha Fire Company command officers. Do we have a motion for that one? Second, okay. Just checking what. Nobody had anything they wanted to discuss? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. Item 10, the solar power purchase agreement. And for this item, we will recognize the sustainability planner.
Hello, My name is Pam Adams, Sustainability Planner here at COG. I am part of the project management team that's been working on this, and many of you, if not all of you, have seen the presentation. We've presented to the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, Facilities Committee, and Finance Committee this past month, and myself or somebody from the project management team has been to most of your organizations, in fact, probably all of yours almost. I am joined by Gretchen Brandt and Peter Buck. They're both on the project management team as well. So tonight, I'm going to give an overview of the document package. We're going to talk about cost and rate projections, sort of put some numbers to the PPA structure. For COG, we're going to talk about the electricity tier and then the legal costs. So for the documents that you have in the agenda packet, there are 5 associated with the PPA. The first is the PPA Master Agreement, and that is with Prospect 14, who's the solar developer, who will build, own, and maintain a solar project. That contract is for 15 years. That gives us the electricity at a fixed escalated rate. Then with the retailer, with Direct Energy, there's 3 contract documents. That's the PPA Servicing Agreement. That's the document that spells out how we're going to receive the electricity from that solar project through the wholesale electricity market. They'll manage that for us. That and the Commodity Master Agreement and the Transaction Confirmation Document is all contract for 5 years. And then the third document is the in-schedule tri-party agreement. That agreement is between the solar developer, the retailer, and the COG. And that basically discusses how we're all going to work together cooperatively doing our parts in this agreement. Part of the structure for how we're going to go forward with the PPA is to work with the energy services consultant that we've been working with for the past couple years to get us to this point. That contract is for 6 years so that we have overlap with the consultant to help us get through the next retailer contract. And they will be the one that helps set up the PPA, monitor the PPA, and help provide periodic reviews. So these organizations will be working with us going forward. To get us to this point, we've worked with the PPA attorney, Fraser Drinker, that has provided the review of the contract documents up to this point, but we won't be needing them for the future. So because there's multiple documents, we're sort of looking at this as a closing, and we have a checklist provided for you that provides the list of all the different documents. And then tonight, you'll be asked to vote on the general forum resolution, which basically outlines all those documents and gives the authorization to Ben, the executive director, to sign those on the general forum's behalf. For going forward, some of those other documents include this Center County Solar Group Memorandum of Understanding. So that MOU is for one, history, because this project goes for 15 years forward, and all of us, some of us may or may not be here, and so it's good for new members to understand how we got here, and it also talks about those future relationships with the next consultant, if we're going to need one, who's going to make that decision. And so that solar group will be making those decisions. It outlines it, that there'll at least be an annual report out to all the member organizations, and so that kind of structure is identified there. And then I mentioned going forward, we're going to continue using the technical services of Green Sky because they've been valuable to this point, and we still need their subject matter expert, if you want to say their expertise. And so this is a listing of the 10 organizations who are in the PPA. COG is the last one of the 10 to go through the approval process. And so if that occurs tonight, then 77% of the electricity from the 10 organizations will go into the PPA. All right, so let's talk about the costs and then the rate projections. So this table shows everybody's, the 10 organizations, what their costs are. So for COG, it's highlighted there in orange. The first two columns, the consultant and legal costs, are the costs that have been incurred, due, not necessarily all paid, but they're due up to this point. Going forward are the remaining columns. So as I mentioned, Green Sky is a service that we would pay for going forward, and we will pay the $4,574 this year and next year. And then in 2026, when the solar project starts and the PPA happens, then that service will be billed as a kilowatt hour, so it will be included in our electricity cost. I was asked to include net present value, so basically saying we've got this money, if we had put it in a bank, it also has a value. So it's not a cost that we're paying out, it's just showing the value of the money that if we hadn't spent this, what it would have earned. Once we sign the documents, there's 3 milestones for Prospect 14 to provide reimbursements, and that shows COG share, so that is a credit, if you want to say. So COG's total cost, conservatively, including the net present value, is $28,000. So it's important to know the costs so that we can understand payback. And it's also to be able to determine projected savings. We have to make some assumptions on what we think the market is going to look like. So for COG, it shows our commitment at 80%. Currently it's at 75%, but I'll talk about that next. We have to pick 3 tiers. Our costs, I said, are $28,000. With the PPA, with a market rate at 8 cents per kilowatt hour, our rate for year 1 is 7.6 cents per kilowatt hour, and then in year 15 it's 8.9. So with that, comparing to an 8-cent market with a 1.5% escalator, the cost savings is $5,000, around $5,000 the first year, and if you look at over the 15 years, the annual savings is around $9,000 for a 15-year projected saving of $154,000. So the payback from what we put into it is between 4 and 5 years. Another way to look at it is with this chart, year 1 through year 15. So as I said before, our first year rate is 7.6, 15-year is 8.9. The red line, the dotted line there, is the projected rate of what we believe the market will be in 2026. And that's based on talking to different energy brokers, attending different webinars. We don't know what the market will be, but we have to make some assumptions to be able to evaluate this. So that orange band is really where the market could be. And we know the market is not a flat line, it goes up and down, but somewhere in that orange band is where we anticipate the rate to be. And so you can see that there is the savings potential. What my chart showed before was that everybody's at the 8 cents market rate. But COG has been purchasing RECs along with some of the other organizations and continues to plan to purchase RECs based on the CAP, the Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So if you look at what the market is with RECs, that's the green line. So you can see there that savings potential, really the payback could be 2 to 3 years. But we also, again, don't know what the market rate is going to be. And currently, we have a contract through the end of this year at 7.8 cents. But in all those scenarios, the PPA rate in year 1 is lower. And so that's the information we're sharing to make our best judgment on proceeding with this. So for electricity tier, COG initially selected 75%. Everybody chose their own, but Direct Energy is looking for 3 tiers, and the 3 choices are 60%, 80%, and 90%. The 3 committees, Climate Action, Sustainability, Facilities, and Finance, all looked at it and agreed to move it to 80%. Basically, we looked at our usage for 22 and 23, those 2 years of the total COG usage, and the difference is around 74,000 kilowatt hours. If you look at Millbrook Marsh, the new Spring Creek Education Building, it's modeled to be about 41,000. And then we have Blue Course Regional Park. So we believe that Whitehall Road, sorry. Whitehall Road Regional Park, that the change is fine to be at 80%. So all 3 committees recommended moving to the 80%, and that's the motion in your packet tonight. And then lastly, legal costs. We all know that there's been a lot of discussions on this, and definitely after action reports, how we can do things differently and better, and understanding the way legal costs are accrued and paid. COG to date has paid $9,242 based on COG approving that we could spend up to $11,516. And to sort of walk through the process at COG, I went back and looked at the different motions that have been approved by COG. And in March of 2020, the executive committee made the motion because it was during COVID, so they were acting on behalf of the general forum. And they approved the cost sharing agreement, and the costs at that time were anticipated to be $4,000. We definitely underestimated the legal costs because we thought our own solicitors could do that, but we needed the special expertise of a PPA attorney. So then in February of 2023, we came to the general forum to say we need to hire this PPA attorney to be able to provide us with the services to reduce our risk for the contract documents, and the general forum approved the investment going from $4,000 to $7,500 to cover those legal fees. Between February and September of 2023, the next phase of legal costs came in, and we needed to have additional $4,176. And at that time, the general forum approved that amount to cover that phase of the legal review. And so tonight, we're at the point of the final phase of legal review, and COG's share is the $4,727 there at the bottom for the final phase of legal services. So the key takeaways on this project are that this project can provide stability to COG and to the member organization by locking in energy prices, right? That is a benefit to have that in the budgeting process. It also is projected to provide savings over the life of the project. So it's stability, savings, and then finally sustainability. It helps diversify the grid in Pennsylvania, reducing our emissions profile for the state of Pennsylvania. And if there's any questions, I'll take that. And there's motions, I believe, in your agenda.
Yep. All right, thank you, Ms. Adams. Thinking we could probably take questions as we go along, but what I'm thinking, it would be best to, since there's two motions in the packet, it would be best to first debate the electricity tier followed by the legal fees instead of mashing it all into one. So if there's no objections to that, open up the floor to discuss the electrical tier and provide any questions. Yes, Mr. Myers.
First and then have the discussion?
Yes, good idea. So let's entertain a motion for the electricity tier.
I'll move that motion.
Okay. All right, motion by Mr. Myers, second by Ms. Whitman. So we will open up debate on the electrical tier to anyone that has any questions or feedback they want to provide. Not seeing any, so be ready to call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no.
No.
Okay. Motion passes. Next up, legal cost. Can I entertain a motion for the legal cost? All right. Had a motion by Ms. Whitman, seconded by Mr. Heller. Just to clarify, Ms. Whitman, that is the stated motion in the packet, just for the record? Yes, please. Just want to make sure everyone knows what
I move
they're...
that the general forum recommended by the Executive Committee, Climate Action Committee, Facilities Committee, and Finance Committee approve payment of COG's final phase of legal fees of $4,727.
All right. Thank you very much. Just want to make sure everyone knows what we're debating and voting on. So any discussion on that item?
Well, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I've said
Mr.
it before, I'll say it again. I don't believe it's appropriate to be paying these legal fees that were accrued at risk. Governing boards were not given prior notice of increasing prices beyond the cap that was set in 2023, and I just don't think it's appropriate. That's it.
All right, Mr. Balachandran.
I had a question about the legal fees in terms of, was there actually a not-to-exceed number that was exceeded in terms of the legal fees? And I just wanted some clarification on that because it looks like there was one of the slides that said that the COG General Forum had imposed a not-to-exceed number. And I want to see if, I guess my question is that does this number for the fees, does it exceed that not-to-exceed number?
Mr. Chair, back in September 2023, the COG General Forum set a cap of $165,000 for legal fees. And there was never any comeback to ask for additional fees beyond that. And that was my point of contention all along. So there was a cap set by this body in September of 2023 of $165,000, and all 12 participating entities were part of that cap. And it's in the documentation of the General Forum. So that was presented in September 2023, I believe.
So in the documentation, it says that the September 2023 COG General Forum approved expenditures of $11,516, and COG has spent $9,241.77.
But there was an overall cap of 165 for all 12 entities. If you look at the chart, it adds them all up, and the sum total is 165,000. And that was the projected cap. That's what we approved.
Copy that. So we are, this entity is one of the 12 entities. And so do we speak for all of the budget of the 12 entities, or do we speak for just COG?
Well, that's a legal question, okay? That's not for me. Well, all I'm saying is the total, the number, the 165, came out of totaling the legal fees, and it projected additional requirements of all 12 participating entities for a total of $165,000. I don't have the chart with me, but if you look at that chart, it clearly shows all 12 participating entities.
Yeah. I guess I'm trying to, go ahead, ma'am.
I'll just,
So I'll just point out, I don't have the chart either right in front of me, but I can point it out. I believe it said estimated for that last piece, that 50,000 that got us to the 165, but the motion itself did not set the limit. We verbalized and thought at the time, based on our estimates, that it was going to be 165.
well, I'll just have to disagree, because we voted on a cap of 165,000. I was in that meeting, and I remember what we did.
I too was in that meeting. I thought there was a cap, but looking at the motion, it was not stated in the motion from the meeting minutes. And I think that is maybe a good lesson in why I want to try to emphasize when we are making motions that we're stating the motion so that everyone is aware of what we're making a motion on. I will, okay, yep, take a question from Mr. Myers.
So I guess I'm confused now. So the motion was passed, but the motion itself, according to the meeting minutes, or the motion, or what the motion itself said, did not actually have a monetary figure associated with any cap. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying? I mean, what?
Yeah, the motion, and I did pull up just to verify, a motion was made by Mr. Balachandran, seconded by Mr. Marshall, to approve the additional $4,176 to be used to address the increased COG share of legal expenses related to the legal review of the solar power purchasing agreement project. That was what we voted on September 26,
There was
2023.
also a vote on $50,000.
So to follow that up, so that amount was voted, that was additional monies that were voted on to spend. So what we're talking about now is to vote additional monies on, which is our prerogative as a legislative, the body that we have in our authority, just like if we were in a municipality and we were running a sewer project, and we had allocated a certain amount of money, and they ran into a snag, and now we have to rip up the street because the pipe is in worse shape than we thought, but we only attributed X number of dollars. Now we have to attribute Y number of dollars and actually vote more money toward it. That's kind of that's the analogy I'm thinking about in this regard. So this body has the authority to vote more funds if it so wants to. The legal authority to approve more funds, no matter what the previous motion had said, just like Congress from one year to the next may appropriate more money than the previous year. Is that correct? I guess I'm asking the administration.
Based on the legal opinion from the COG solicitor, that is correct. This body has the authority to approve additional costs.
Yes, Mr. Valsheimer.
Well, I guess I just want to clarify that according to the meeting minutes that you pulled up, there is nothing then about a do not exceed number, nothing about $165,000.
Not in the motion.
Not
in
well,
that motion.
Not in the September 2023 meeting, is that exact?
Yeah, that is correct. Okay, because I do have two down here. Mr. Harding.
Yeah, okay, I had what the cap was, but I think the point we're all missing here, yes, we have the authority to vote more money, and we can come back, but when we passed that one not to exceed 7,500, and they did, and then they come back and told us we had to approve another 4,000. So the point here I think that everybody's trying to make is the money and the legal fees were allowed to continue to rise without coming back beforehand and saying, hey, we need more money. So we were put in a position that if we wanted to continue this, we had to vote more money to make it happen. I think that's the issue. It's not whether that was the cost and what we had to pay and what we voted. It was that it was done without coming back to us and saying, hey, we're going to need more money for legal fees. It was just said, yeah, go ahead and do it. They did the legal fees, then come back and said, oh, by the way. And I think that's what everybody's talking about here. It's the idea that it happened without them coming back to us, and we had to come back after the fact and say, yep, now we got to pay it. Because we were in the same boat in Harris. We decided, okay, we committed to legal fees to begin with, and we paid them, even though we didn't like the idea that they came on before them coming back and asking us to add more fees to it. So I think that's what everybody's, the point here.
Mr. Kasab and then Mr. Portney.
I just to go back to, I guess I'm a little confused. So the minutes are the legal document, right? Basically saying what we said. There's no other thing that's written that says not to exceed, what was it, 165,000, right? Is that the number we're talking about? Whatever the number is. But clearly the minutes do not state that there was a cap. So it gave the COG authority, the forum, right, to say, hey, it's costing us a little bit more money. Do we agree to pay it? And we paid it, right? I'm just trying to understand why we're stuck on it. When the minutes clearly say, I wasn't here, so, but, you could look at the minutes and it clearly doesn't say that there was a cap, right? Anybody have a
Yes, Mr.
answer?
Portney.
So I remember looking at the state college area school district. The $165,000 figure, I think, comes from their minutes. That's the original, because even on our agendas right here, it says the participating entities approved 3 legal phases or phases of legal services totaling that amount. And I think that number comes from meeting minutes from different entities that were participating. Regardless, I think Frank hits home on what we're talking about here. I want to say a point of order, though, because the agenda says $11,516 were approved by the COG General Forum, but $7,500 plus $4,176 equals $11,676, and not. I know it's a difference of 160, but if we're being precise here, I want to just make sure that the agenda fully reflects that COG collectively approved $11,676, and where we're at right now is we're on the footsteps of, are we going to approve that last leg, that last at-risk portion? I've made my views clear on this before, but that's, I think we should be clear-eyed about it, and I think the agenda should reflect that. So that's just something I want to just put out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I've
Mr. Patterson.
I got a few, thank you. I have a few things I'm trying to understand. Number one, COG, right now, the ask is to approve $4,000. Is that accurate, 4,727? However, or some number.
With the rejiggering of numbers, maybe it's different. But
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not $4,000 of new money, it's the remainder of what was approved before, plus another couple of $1,000.
It would be.
Is that,
I think it's 11,600, that's why I want this number to be more precise. 11,676 minus the 9,241 and 77 cents that we've already spent and sent to the entity, plus whatever the 3.83% is to make it, the math add up. I think we're probably dealing with a figure that's in total like $14,000 if you add it up. I'm just doing the math in my head. right now.
1,400?
What?
I see, I just did that quick math.
So this 4,726 is the amount that we're asking for, and it includes the amount difference that you're talking about.
Okay, so it should have been, is COG share 4,700 or 6,700?
$4,727.
Okay.
This particular request.
So
So if you add that amount to the 11,600, you get the 15,000 that's in the projected cost.
And 9's been spent?
9 has been spent of the 15,000.
Okay, so then it's the delta between the 11,000 and 9,000 plus this 4,726. That's the new math? That's the new number? So it's a little bit more, but a bigger check than 4,700?
But we've already approved 2,000 of them, which we've been talking about.
Did we already send that check? That's what I'm trying to understand.
We have not sent the check yet.
For the, okay. From the paper I'm looking at, 11,516, which really should be 11,676. Got it. And then it says COG has spent 9,241. Are we, that delta, that 2,435, we have yet to cut that check? And we should already.
Correct,
And this 4,726 is a new check.
correct.
Okay, thank you. That's I just want to lay down those facts of, we have some money that we didn't spend, and now we have some new money that we need to spend.
And
Got
that's
it.
why I wanted us to be more clear about the what's it called, 11,676, because of what we've already approved.
Thank
That's why I
you.
wanted to be more clear.
And so now then my statement, I'll just double click on what Frank said, is that in all the motions that you said, it was before the action of the attorneys, and so, or was it not? Maybe that's a question. In all the
So I
motions
think
where we
Frank's
approved
point is correct.
Okay.
That the way the legal fees work, because we're in a group with 15 other entities, State College being the lead, is that the attorney, we got approval to use the attorney, and then they started spending money, and then they're like, oh, we've already used that amount, we need more. And so that is when it comes back for the approval. So I do not know the specifics of exactly when and what, but I know that the time period is that the approval happened in February to have the solicitor, and between February and September, additional legal work was occurring, and so we had to come back for the next phase of legal fees that we needed to be paid.
Copy that. Are there any policy adjustments based on what we've learned necessary? Question mark.
I would suggest this is more of a procedural adjustment that needs to be made from the forum to ensure that when we have representatives to outside bodies, that the communication is coming back promptly, and if you do not automatically receive that, the requests go out and we do not act further until we have received those updates that we are supposed to receive from those bodies. This coming at this after everything has happened, there are clear communication failures that have gone on, and It's incumbent on somebody like me to make sure that staff reports are making it to the forum. However, the forum also had its own representative that was there, and we need to make sure that those reports are coming back to the forum on a regular basis as well. So that's why I believe it's a procedural change that has to happen for us, less policy in the future.
Copy that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I got Hartle followed by Best and Myers. Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll go with them. Okay, so then Mr. Best, you're up next.
Just one question. When we're all said and done, what is the total amount of legal fees that the COG will pay? Because that is not clear to me.
That was up there.
On this chart, it shows the total legal fees will be $15,173.
And that's with today's approval of the additional $4,726.
That is assuming today's approval, correct?
Okay. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
So, trying to get my head around what was just asked and so on, and what we heard is defined from a standpoint of what was previously voted on. So, I've been under the impression for in 2024 that we were not obligated to pay this amount of money, that because the entity, the law firm that charged the money, understood that it was doing so at risk, so we could either pay it or not. It's up to us to decide. I'm not sure, though, based on what you said, that it didn't say it. Did it say that specifically? Is that what we're operating under? That we can approve this or not? It's not like we have understand we have a bill, but it's not like said, oh yeah, we'll pay whatever bill comes our way. That it was presented to us, or was presented to them. If you do more work and you bill us, we may or may not pay it. Which is it? So that people who are voting understand that they're either obligated to, from procedurally, to say yes, or they can decide not to, based on the fact that we don't have to do it because of that. So I ask that to the chair. Is that or administrative?
Ma'am, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cervello.
I attended the working group meetings last year. First of all, let me just preface it by saying I think we expected a certain expenditure of legal fees through the completion of contracts, which are at the time were to be completed somewhere around the February to March of 2024 period of time. Those contracts were made available, but they were never voted on. Then there was a period of time from March to August where there was a significant amount of legal work being done. Found out about it by going to the August Solar Power Purchasing Agreement Working Group meeting, whereby it was discussed that there were this significant amount of increase in legal fees being expended. And at the time, it was illustrated in that meeting. It's a public meeting. Ben, you were there. John Franick was there. Pam, the working group was there. The project management team was there. There were other representatives, elected officials. It was clearly stated in that meeting that there were significant legal fees that were termed at risk. Peter Buck, who's the chair of the working group, there he is, and the project management team, and I remember this clearly, said that, to be clear, that none of the entities participating have to pay those additional legal fees if they don't want to. And that was that was emphasized in that meeting. And I was there, I attended the meeting, and I heard what was said.
So the answer to the question is, we are not obligated to pay this money. That it's up to us whether we decide to do it or not. So there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of brouhaha about the fact that we're obligated to do it, but we're not. Now, the fact is, we can decide, as have all those other entities, that in fact, the amount we were charged, because it was a cost overrun, was fair and reasonable. And if you individually decide that that was a fair and reasonable charge, even though, as Frank pointed out, that, when's it stop, I think is where he was going with that. But if you feel it was fair and reasonable, then you, I think, vote in favor of it. If you don't think it was fair and reasonable, then that's up to you. I just think that based on what we saw from the law firm was they sliced the amount of money that they were going to charge because they recognized the fact that they had, as Mr. Savella said, well, they understood where we were coming from, so they're kind of trying to split the difference, saying that let's everybody be fair and reasonable about it. So that's just to kind of clarify. Thank
And
you.
I do think that's a point to come back to, and just for my own clarity, I was under the assumption that while the municipalities didn't necessarily have to pay, that cost would still be shifted onto the other entities participating in that. Is that accurate, or?
I don't know that it's accurate, but it might be the way that it would be asked.
So, again, for clarity, that cost would still be shifted onto the other paying bodies if one municipality didn't want to pay their portion. That's my understanding.
Is that the case though? Because we approved an amount. The borough, when voting for this, approved an associated amount for legal fees. If COG were to say we're not paying our part of it, would it like the bill
No,
would?
it's not automatic, it would just have to be discussed and figured
Okay,
out.
that's what I was just
And it
looking
would be
for.
more
Okay. And figure
time and effort.
Okay.
Okay.
I just remember there were three options that they presented. So you were right. There's options. We could pay, we could not pay, we could pay half, we could pay overtime. But the motion as presented and as is moved on this table is to pay. And I think that's where we're at.
And so I do think it's helpful to come back to what Mr. Myers was referencing, then if we're not obligated to necessarily pay this, then philosophically the question is, are these charges reasonable? We understand that it's frustrating the process by which we were billed and whatever, but is this reasonable? And from my understanding, when we're talking about legal fees, these things accrue, and I think the estimates that were provided to us initially, it was a sort of like moving target, and so we weren't necessarily able to pinpoint an exact dollar amount. And so I do think that would be something for us to come back to, but I think we have some more.
Yeah, you got Perkins, Herndon, Portney, and Lord, and we'll recognize Ms. Perkins.
While she's doing that, so my question is, I have two questions now because of some comments that were made. So we were at risk, so were all of the additional expenses at-risk expenses for all entities, not just us? So, yeah, yeah, okay. And then, now, the one that's in our agenda, Pam, that has my question refers to the amount waived.
Oh,
So the chart that you had, yes, that one. So sorry, Evan, I forgot your term, but, a good faith effort with the overages of the at-risk funds, is the amount waived their good faith effort to kind of reduce that at-risk dollars, or where does this amount waived come from if it's not that? Is that it? Is that their good faith effort for the overages?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure there was clarity on that one too.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Okay.
Fair and reasonable, who's being,
and they're asking us to-
if everybody's being fair and reasonable, I think
That's
that's
their
what that.
share of fair and reasonable
Correct.
distribution. Okay.
Well, my understanding, and Pam, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the amount, the $123,000 is after the $70,000? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So they actually incurred $193,000 and change over in our at-risk portion. When the first, and this is where a lot of at least my question comes. We had talked about whether or not 165,000 came from this body or not. That was an estimate. And now you're saying that the total global at-risk, and they did make a reasonable effort to pay a third of it, but was nearly $200,000 they went over with the at-risk. I appreciate that they waived that amount, but I think the questions are still, it's a sizable amount. I mean, it's $123,000. And so I think that's where we are at with is this reasonable, is this not? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That was my comment, so you can skip over me.
Oh, okay.
Pass over me.
Well, we'll go to your colleague, Mr. Herndon.
Thanks. So if we say no tonight, I'm wondering if the staff time and effort to discuss this further could potentially cost more than even the $4,000 that we're debating now. Obviously, we don't know how much staff time it would take if that happens unless we actually do it. I certainly hope we don't get there because of my second question, and I think this one should be easy, but I'll ask it anyways just to clarify for everyone. Before we vote, did this project that was produced by these fees, is it expected to save us significantly more money over the course of the project than the fees themselves? I like that graph, thank you. So I think that's the key thing for me at least is, we paid for something, we're getting more back than we paid in. That's a good investment.
It's a good question, Mr. Herndon, and if I recall right, all the municipalities have basically approved the SPPA at this point, which I thought, at least in our municipality, also included those legal fees, so this would be the only entity that didn't approve the legal fees if we were to say no. I have Mr. Lord, and then Mr. Bernier.
Okay. This isn't about the money. It's not going to break the bank. This is about the process we use, the lack of communications, and the fact that we spent, a half an hour here spinning our wheels. I'll defer to Mr. Bernier, but then I will ask to move the question.
Thanks. So quick and easy questions for staff. I read in the agenda that this presentation, 4 COG committees got this presentation, correct?
3, climate action, facilities, and finance.
Okay, everything except
It was brought to executive but not presented.
Okay. All committees recommended the general forum support the motion.
Correct.
Were there any dissenting votes in the committees?
There was 1.
One for each committee or one?
1 in finance.
That's all I had.
Move the question.
All right, we have the motion to move the question, so that essentially will close debate, but it will require a vote of 2/3. All those in favor of closing the debate, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Sorry, two votes doesn't keep it going. So therefore, we will now call for a vote on the motion that was in the agenda packet. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
I got 3, is that correct? Okay. Okay, we're good. All right. Item 11, Parks and Recreation Governance Special Committee recommendations. And I will recognize Mr. Frank of College Township.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a tough act to follow, but we will do our best. For those not aware, hopefully none of you, there's been a Parks and Recreation Governance Special Committee doing work since February of 2022 to try to shape the governance of our regional parks and local parks and how we play nicely with each other and the authority and everything like that. We came to the general forum previously with a recommendation on the best mission and or purpose for the authority for the future. We've now come forward with our second step, which is the best governance structure to achieve that mission purpose in a similar matrix. In your agenda packet, both of those documents are there, along with a little bit of a brief historical document outlining some of this stuff. If you bottom line it, the authority has the responsibility for the majority of this stuff, but it's the COG General Forum's money that makes that happen. So with that, the authority is its own entity. It governs how it does business, but all of the member municipalities put a representative on that authority and work with them to achieve the best for the residents of the region. So at this point, the special committee is asking for the general forum's blessing on our second step in our three-step process outside of the additional duties as assigned by the executive committee, so that we can move to our next, which is potentially the most difficult, the best governing documents to achieve that mission, purpose, etc. So again, the documents are in the agenda package, and we'll welcome any questions towards those.
All right, do we have any questions?
I would like to move the motion.
Oh, yes, thank you. Do we have a second? Wait, actually, can I clarify what motion will be moving?
So, I'm going to move the motion that the general forum as recommended by the Executive Committee and Parks and Recreation Governance Special Committee preserve the current governance structure, remain in place as the best governance structure for the Parks and Recreation Authority to achieve its mission and purpose, and further recommends that the general forum authorize that special committee to continue its work on the next area of responsibility of recommending the best governing documents to achieve that mission, purpose, bylaws, memorandums of understanding, articles of agreement, etc., the third duty of the special committee.
This is Patty, I'll second.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Portney, second by Ms. Stevens. It is stated as stated in the packet. Any discussion?
I just want to highlight the fact that this was a great collaborative work among a couple of the municipalities, and I'm glad we got to this result. It was a long, I jumped into it. February we started this at the special committee, and I think we took on a lot of great work, and we ended up in a good place, especially with preserving that role and the role of the Parks Capital Committee. So I just wanted to thank the work of the committee, especially Chair Fred.
Mr. Lord.
I'll point out that the Parks Capital Committee hasn't done anything in years. Its role here is redundant at this time. We have an authority, which has the authority. We have finance and facilities, which cover basically the funding and what we may want to do in terms of, moving forward with these projects. It's purely redundant. The only argument I've seen for having a Parks Committee, not necessarily a Parks Capital Committee, is one of communications between the elected officials and the authority. Every municipality appoints someone to the authority. Every municipality, if you don't feel that you have good communications with the authority, then why not? Why are you not communicating with your representative? And we don't need a duplication of effort. Our parks people, our park agency, doesn't need multiple masters. Okay, so if somebody, all authority member meetings are open to the public. Anybody is welcome to come. So what's the purpose of a Parks Committee that's not already being met? That's my, and I think I've expressed this before.
Does someone want to answer that question?
I think it's just, it would take us through the whole year of our committee. And it basically, it comes down to that I think more of us voted in favor of keeping the current structure for communication, because as we experienced earlier, whether it was with Whitehall Road Regional Park or our solar power purchasing agreement, sometimes communications break down. And we do all have representatives and we do get reports. As we stated, personally, Ferguson Township is not allowed to appoint an elected to sit on the authority. So those are all appointed people, not elected. And I think sometimes we just have an idea of budgeting, and we are sort of a litmus test about what we think would really fly with the general forum. And that was sort of the debate for the year that we've had that. So it's not really a question to answer without taking you through a year of dialogue.
Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, Mr. Lord, I agree with you. And I think the problem, at least as I see it as someone who's relatively new, is that, as Mr. Frank mentioned, we've got one entity that has no money, but they say they want to do stuff, and one entity that has money and just gives money to the other entity without that kind of full-throated acknowledgement by the electeds as to how that money's being used. And we've seen several examples of that not working well. So I think if you're able to detangle, if somebody can figure out how to detangle that, the authority with no money guiding what gets done and then obligating COG to do it, if you can detangle that, then, so I agree 100%, like, yes, have some other committees do it. Okay, I welcome that to happen. But sans that, I think this Parks Committee needs to be in place for the electeds to have that insight and understanding of how COG dollars are being spent by electeds. Over.
Yes, Mr. Portney. Oh, you call a question, okay.
And I also want to say here.
All right. All those in favor of closing debate and moving the question, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Unanimous. So, all those in favor of the motion as stated in the agenda packet, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, motion passes. Next up, university report, and I would recognize Mr. Morales.
Excuse me, I apologize, I'm losing my voice, so I'll try to do the best I can here. But thank you, Mr. Chair, appreciate it. So just a quick couple of updates from the university, some things that were announced in the fall, and just to recap, because I feel they're important. So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. Nothing major, but our fall enrollment numbers were released shortly before the break, the holiday break. Our first-year students at University Park came in at 9,106. So that is an increase of last year. It's roughly an increase of it's an increase of about 365 students of our total population. But the first-year class was higher than last year. It is a record fall first-year class. The total population at University Park came in at 49,471, which is a 0.8% increase from the year before. So again, totaling about roughly 365 students. Commonwealth-wide, across the state of Pennsylvania, our total population, including graduate programs, is 87,995. So again, the number at UP, total population 49,471, and about 50% of those students were in-state students from Pennsylvania. Moving along here, and I can answer any questions if you have them as we go along, but some other things that to highlight. Last fall, our board approved some facility projects, namely the housing project that is scheduled for the Graduate Circle property on campus. That work will be done by Greystar, and they are in the process of planning and doing the preliminary work out on the Grad Circle property. In addition to the housing project, we also green-lighted a new general purpose classroom building, which will be occupied on Park Avenue, the corner of Park Avenue and Bigler. I think I have my cross streets right. It's right across from the Arboretum. So across from the law school, it kind of completes the semicircle of business school, forestry, and then we'll have a general purpose classroom building there. It will be 8 classrooms, mostly serving first-year students. There will be no offices or anything like that, so no additional faculty or staff. We'll see the faculty teaching the classes, but outside of that, no home offices in that building. So again, 8 general purpose classrooms in that building, and that construction is scheduled to start this spring, so pretty quickly. Lastly, of note, as far as facilities, the renovations to the Sackett Building and Hammond Building are underway. Hammond, for those that are not aware, is the building that is right along College Avenue, right past the Allen Street gates. I think there's a lot of folks that are anxious to see that facade come down. Right now, tentatively, it's scheduled to come down in, I would say, late 27, early 28. Right now, it's serving as swing space for our Sackett building. And Sackett will still remain the main engineering facility as far as where our leadership will be headquartered. So the Dean of Engineering, et cetera, will be stationed in Sackett. And then just lastly, some key dates to keep in mind. Students are, of course, back on campus. Classes started on January 13th. Moving right along, Thon weekend will be February 21st to the 23rd. So always a great weekend. I encourage all of y'all, if you want to come out and check it out. If you haven't been, I doubt that, but please let us know, and I'm happy to have you. Blue-White weekend is also scheduled. That is April 26th. Of course, the stadium is under construction, so I am not sure what Blue-White weekend would look like quite yet. So information will be released as we continue to go, move forward. But that is all I have. Yes.
For you. So the target of, for enrollment for this fall that you just reported on was very close to what was put forward from the administration about,
Correct.
over a year ago. What's the target for fall of 2025? Do you know what that is?
I do not at the moment, no. We will probably start to get that information here shortly as we progress through the spring and the enrollment office sets their goals. But yeah, you're right. Last year's goal was about 9,500 students in the first year class, and they came in at about 9,100. Yeah, so, yeah.
You mentioned Commonwealth campuses. What's the total enrollment? Has it decreased or increased?
So I don't have those numbers exactly in front of me, and I don't want to misrepresent it. So I could get that to you, though. I could share it with Ben as well, and Ben could, if you mind sharing it with the rest of the forum. But yeah, I just don't want to misrepresent those numbers exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Josh.
I didn't mention this, but is there any updates on the Penn State law reunification, and how would that affect the community here?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. Fitting that a current law student would ask, yeah. So we are moving forward in reunifying the law schools. The law schools will be similar to how they first started. So it will be one law school with two locations. The difference being that this time around, the school in Carlisle will be the primary location as opposed to the school in University Park. So Carlisle, the dean will sit in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and we will move forward this fall with admitting a unified class. Numbers aren't exactly clear just yet. If you follow the biz, law school applications are up across the country right now, so I would imagine hopefully they have a good shot at enrolling a strong class. But yeah, so that's the update as of right now. It has moved past ABA approval.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. This is the most questions I've gotten in 2 years. Yes, I'll go ahead.
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, just, I know Pat, and we have a lot of individuals from the university, whether it be faculty, staff, especially students, graduate students. I know there's been a lot of just angst about the, transition, government transition, executive orders coming out, impacts on student loans, immigration, stuff like that. Just wondering about any discussions that are being had and when information clarity will be, provided to help quell some of these, concerns.
Absolutely, that's a great question. And yeah, I mean, we are monitoring, my office especially is monitoring day to day as those things are handed down to us. We don't have a response yet. We're simply trying to gather all the information and make sure we fully understand what it means, because I think there's some stuff there that can be interpreted in different ways. But we're working through that. President's Council has engaged in those conversations and are very aware. notifications and messages have gone out to deans and to share with their faculty and staff as well. So there's nothing really, all to say, there's nothing really to report, although we are aware, we understand the magnitude of the situation and kind of how to navigate, and we're not necessarily sure how to navigate it just yet. But once that becomes clear, we will start to communicate that to our faculty, staff, and especially our students.
And I would just advocate, I know it's a precarious situation, and I would never try to assume I know, what best routes there are, and I know the absence of information, can be, that ambiguity can just be, sorry.
Speak up.
Sorry, that ambiguity can just be activating, and so I think any way of, trying to provide comfort or maybe not reassurances to people, but some type of comfort and direction, clarity would be helpful sooner rather than later. So
Yeah,
I just want to advocate for
I
our
agree with you. And
constituents.
yeah, hopefully it's forthcoming soon.
Yep. My apologies.
Any other questions? Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, State College Area School District Report, and for this I will recognize Ms. Brandt. I will also point out your report is in the agenda packet that was uploaded late this afternoon. So.
Okay, I'm gaining my voice back, so I will try and speak as loud as I can. Everything is in the report, but I'll just go over in case anybody has any questions. Our physical plant building is complete. At the January 13th meeting, the board approved a resolution authorizing administration to complete the Solar for Schools grant applications for Mount Nittany and Park Forest Middle School projects. So hopefully that will come to fruition. On December 16th, at our meeting, we voted to approve the bids for the Mount Nittany Elementary renovation. So there's a big expansion and renovation at the Mount Nittany Elementary School, and it's gonna be substantially bigger. We'd seen a population growth there, and actually had our board meetings, and College Township very generously let us use their boardroom for a while because we had a class. There's a classroom in our boardroom, so hopefully this will take care of that problem. We also have hired a new SRO, School Resource Officer, John Aston, who serves both in the State College Police Department and as the SCASD School Resource Officer, is retiring at the end of February. And so the borough, along with SCASD, has hired a new officer to replace John, and they conducted interviews, and remind me his name. Matt, I have it here somewhere. Oh, Matt Hartline. Sorry about that. Matt Hartline, and he has been shadowing John Aston for a while, and will continue to. I met him when the board did a high school tour, and he seems lovely. He seems very comfortable with that age group of 9 to 12, so we're happy to welcome him to the district. And lastly, on February 5th at 6 p.m. at the high school, the school board will have a conversation with the community. We have these throughout the year, and anybody can ask us or talk to us about anything that they would like. It's just for conversation. We can't have that in board meetings because it's just one direction public comment to us. We're not allowed to respond. But at the community coffees, we can actually have conversations. So that will be on February 5th, 6 p.m. at the high school. That's it. Thank you.
Right, any questions? Mr. Portney?
Gretchen, thank you. I know you guys have a meeting tonight, so I'm very happy you chose to
Yeah, I'm missing my meeting right now.
Spend time with
so
us
I could be
tonight.
with you all tonight.
I wanted to ask about the solar for schools. So how does that interface with the solar power purchase agreement that the school district approved? Is it your extra 20%? Because I know State College area school district was at 79% committed to the deal. Is
Yeah.
this the 21%? Or what?
Yeah, so this would not be a part of the percentage that's coming from the PPA. It would come from the remainder.
So this is part
If
of
the
your-
grant is approved, which
Okay.
we actually hear it's very, very competitive. So we're just hoping, but yeah, that's where it would go to.
Okay, but do you think that that would produce enough energy to cover the remainder?
I don't know about that. I would have to check and I can get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Go on to the executive director's report.
Thank you. And welcome back, everybody. Try to keep this reasonably short since it's already been a fairly long evening for you. First, I wanted to provide a Whitehall Road Regional Park update. I just recently spoke with Centrise, the Ferguson manager, and members of her staff on this. There were still a couple documents that they were missing, so I actually went through and found those this morning, so I will be dropping those off to Ferguson tomorrow, and they can complete those reviews for us, and then we'll determine the next steps if there's anything else that is still necessary before we can move towards the final review by our code staff to get the occupancy permit for Whitehall. Sticking on parks, if you have not spoken to your committee members, because I presented to an awful lot of committees this month on the Hess softball field bathroom project, please make sure that you are speaking with those committee members and sharing your thoughts on those options. If you would like your own copy of the and a white paper that I put together for that, please let me know and I'll be happy to send that over to you. This is really in the discussion phase so that we can find the right direction to move forward on that project. But please let us know if you have questions, if there's any other information we can try to find for you, and we will do so.
Ben,
Yes.
I have a question on that. With respect to the 800-gallon tank, has anyone considered the appeal at DEP to change that? Because there's really no need to have a limit of 800 gallon on a tank that's going to be pumped regularly. That's an antique document that's been there for years.
I understand that, and I believe that Corey had reached out to discuss other options. We even considered whether or not if they would have other considerations if we put a digester in as part of that system. So far, they have not had any positive response.
Be easier to get a waiver on the 800-gallon tank and go with a double size rather than.
Well, it's not the size of the tank, it's the size of our flow that matters.
Yeah.
Clarify for everybody, they have a limit of 800 gallons per day, and the numbers that our code staff came up with for the softball tournaments is 1,875 gallons per day is what code would require for that site. So we're more than double what the DEP limit is. It is allowed for a 5-year period, and then we would have to have a separate system and to take care of it at that point.
So keep working on the waiver.
We will work on every direction we can. Any other questions on that? Okay. In light of those kinds of projects, one of the things that I have mentioned to a few of the committees is that I'm going to consider pursuing a consulting engineering agreement for the COG. We have a number of large-scale projects and facilities projects that we have been counting on staff members to guide for years. In each of your municipalities, you have either an engineer on staff or a consulting engineer that you work with on a regular basis to help guide you through these processes. COG has gone with simple project engineers, where every time a project comes up, once engineering is necessary, we contract with one firm. I would prefer that we moved into the same municipal model where we bring in a consulting engineer that we can meet with on a regular basis to advise us early on in these processes, and then move forward with setting up individual projects from there forward. Have not taken any action on this yet. Would be happy to receive any feedback that you may have, but I believe this is a much better model for us to move forward with to make sure that we don't end up in these same scenarios over and over again, where we don't properly manage a project from beginning to end. So we can start investigating these things more thoroughly very early on. Also, last couple items are just nice organizational items. If you look in your memorandums of record, we have a note of the end of year awards for years of service, and we had a number of significant anniversaries for the COG here this past December. So I hope you take a look at those and congratulate those employees who celebrated at that time. And finally, this May, our COG will be hosting COG, which is the Pennsylvania Association for COGs. I sit on the board for the newly formed COG, as that organization had disappeared for a number of years, and DCED has requested that be brought back because of the service that it provides. And as the largest COG in the state, they certainly wanted our participation. So we will be hosting all of these central Pennsylvania COGs during the first week of May. We will very likely be meeting at the Nature Center as an opportunity to show off some of our new facilities and what we do differently than most of the other COGs throughout the Commonwealth. The last thing I would like to say is I've had a number of one-on-one conversations with our elected officials over the last several months. Some of you have come in to meet with me, others I've spoken with after the meetings, and I would like to encourage you all, if you are interested, please get in touch with me. I'm happy to sit down with you so that you can share your thoughts with me. I can share my vision with you. But it's good to get to know you all on a personal level and for you to get a chance to know me a little bit better for moving forward. Thank you all.
Questions for the executive director? Seeing none, we have the agency director reports, and I will recognize the finance director.
Okay, good evening, General Forum. Happy New Year, Mr. Chair. I get to share the exciting stuff. So the first thing I'd like to share with you is this is just a few status of what's going on in the finance office right now as we go into the first quarter. So first of all, our 2024 financial statements are in progress. We hard close our books this Friday, and we expect to have an unaudited trial balance by the end of next week. So that will be distributed on time to the Finance Committee for first review. So we're in really good shape with that. A nod of appreciation to our agency directors who have all followed our request to get their accounts payable and accounts receivable pipelines into us in a timely fashion. So we're very happy and we appreciate their cooperation to do that. Along that line, our 2024 audit is also in progress. Mardisel is waiting for our trial balance, which we will have to them next week. They will be on site in March. I, for one, am very happy that we are back on what appears or feels to be a much more normal audit schedule, because as you know, The audited financial statements provide the most accurate beginning balances for our fund balance. So we will be able to use those numbers much earlier this year than we were able to do last year. So along that line, I've heard all of you and your request that we update a fund balance policy. That's in progress, and I will have a more formal update for the Finance Committee early in February. Our system implementations, I will continue to thank you for approving, some financing for us, some funding to upgrade our AccuFund to the cloud, and ClearGov, which will be a budget module that will layer on top of that. We have had our kickoff meetings for both of these implementations, and AccuFund will come first. That will be the first weekend in March 1 and 2. And I am hopeful that things will go smoothly because it is not a new system. It's just an upgrade to our existing system. But, please, if you would just burn some sage and, give us a nod, if you would, that everything goes smoothly. That is not a payroll week, and I did that on purpose. Lastly, some of you might be aware that we discussed with the Finance Committee a penalty that we were assessed by the IRS for our 1099 NECs being submitted late for the 2022 calendar year. I do not have any word yet from the IRS on that, but what we did do was we went back and made sure that our 2023 calendar year was correct and submitted. And then the good news is that we have submitted our 2024 1099s across the board 2 weeks ahead of the January 31 deadline. That is both an act of good faith, we hope, and a plea for mercy whenever we might hear from them. So I will keep the Finance Committee updated on that, and hopefully there will be some mercy in that. But we are prepared to have a further appeal discussion with them once we hear from the IRS. So if you have any questions about our finances, about the state of the financial statements before they are released, please reach out to me and my staff. We are happy to answer your questions as we go forward. Thank you.
There are no questions. We will. Okay, we will recognize Lisa first, the library director. Then Christy.
Thank you, everyone. So, the majority of the time as the library director, when I come and talk with all of you, I usually have some good news to share. But tonight is a little bit different. I'm sad to inform the General Forum that DJ Lilly, SCLO's office manager, unexpectedly passed away at the end of December. So DJ and I began working together over 24 years ago. She was the head of Children's Services, and I was the head of IT. And I have to say, oh my goodness, did we have a good time, those young librarians. Remind me sometime to tell you about, we have a great story of the two of us thinking it was a great idea to have a bubble program in the middle of winter with a giant sort of wading pool full of bubble solution. What could possibly go wrong? DJ was always looking for ways to help everyone explore their world. She believed wholeheartedly in the power of public libraries to bring communities together. She took such pride in being a librarian, and she was honored to work for SCLO Center Region Library and to serve the Center Region alongside all of you. She was very specific that she didn't want a big memorial service or anything like that. Very specific. However, I know, because I was her supervisor, how much she appreciated a good round of applause. Applause. A job well done. Thank you, DJ. And thank all of you for your patience with the library over the next months as we figure out how we get through this. Because, wow, we're going to miss her so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. So many of you know me. For those of you that don't, maybe online, my name is Christy. I'm the Director for Center Region Parks and Rec. I have the honor of acknowledging Miss Erica Mann next to me here. She is our Active Adult Center Supervisor. She has been with us since 2022 and has done a really phenomenal job and deserves a lot of acknowledgement for all the hard work that she's done at the AAC. She's nearly doubled our contributions and donations for the Active Adult Center for our seniors and has done a stand-up job for all of the programming ideas and events that she's offered at the Active Adult Center, and finds many, many creative ways to save a penny. So this is one of those really feel-good moments to be able to honor and recognize the hard work that she's done here to basically take a project that was going to have a pretty significant cost and solicit a donation through a vendor. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about the flooring company that she got the donation from and a little bit more about that project.
Good evening. The Active Adult Center is thrilled to announce a generous donation of 2,340 square feet of high-quality hardwood flooring from Nidri Flooring located in Forest, Virginia, and assembled locally in Carthage, Pennsylvania. After consultation with the agency director and maintenance supervisor, it was clear that certain high-traffic areas within the AAC needed to be replaced, and this donation will significantly enhance the space. Nidri Flooring has been specializing in commercial and residential engineered hardwood flooring for over 20 years, and its products are known for the superior hardness and finish. Nidri Flooring applications can be found at the Apple headquarters, Disney World, the Smithsonian, and the Facebook headquarters, just to name a few, making Nidri Flooring perfect for spaces with heavy foot traffic like the Active Adult Center. Additionally, Nidri's flooring is water resistant and meets the ADA compliant slip ratings, ensuring both safety and durability. This generous donation of 2,340 square feet of rift and quartered white oak flooring is valued at $35,544 and comes at a material cost of $15,429. In addition to the flooring, Nidri has also provided the necessary adhesive for the installation, valued at $3,189. The total donation to the Active Adult Center amounts at an impressive $38,734. The Active Adult Center and myself extends a heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Barry Brubaker, owner of Nidri, Betsy Cleveland, Clay Kirkland, and the entire Nidri team for their support and this incredible, generous contribution. Thank you for helping us improve our facility to create a safer, more comfortable environment for our seniors. The Active Adult Center is now working to obtain bids for the installation. The installation will be covered by a grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Aging. On the slide, you can see the different areas of the center that will be replaced. We will be replacing the flooring in the moving room, in our kitchen hallway, the restroom hallway, and then we have a back office/storage area that this flooring will replace. So, thank you.
Thank you, Erica. An amazing donation to solicit and receive, so we're very, very thankful for staff that put in that extra time. Thank you.
All right, moving on to authority boards and committee reports. We'll start with executive committee.
Nothing additional to add.
All right.
What's on the agenda.
Yeah, and I do want to apologize. I had missed that meeting. Just had some unexpected things come up at home, and appreciate those for your understanding and condolences during that time. So I will be back. Finance Committee, Mr. Frank.
Yes, Mr. Chair, nothing really to add. You saw our finance director. You see we're headed in the right direction.
Human Resources Committee, I did, of course, miss that one as well, but that was pretty much just beginning of the year procedural items, so if nobody has anything on that. Parks Capital Committee, Mr. Lord.
You all know the irony of me being elected chair of the Parks.
Yes.
Love it when a thing comes together.
Luckily, I'm vice chair though, and I'm in support of the committee. I want to also note, highlight from that.
Yes, Mr. Parker.
I want to highlight from that the Hess softball complex that has been causing a lot of discussion has been finally awarded a recommendation for an award of a capital project, and this one does have in the writing a not to exceed. That's a black letter law. It's there. So I just want to put that in there. That's all I have to say.
All right. Public Safety Committee, is Ms. Trainer here? Yes.
I'd just like to highlight that January 1st, the Center County transitioned from Code Red to Alert Center, and that is our emergency services notification system. And so if you've not registered for that, there's information. I think a lot of the townships have information on the website. I'd encourage you to get signed up as well. That's it. Any questions? That's all I have.
Seeing none, facilities, Mr. Frank.
Yes, Mr. Chair, glad to be back on facilities. I look forward to working with the committee towards our long-range goals.
All right. Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee, Mr. Haymeister.
I'd like to point out that in the packet for our last meeting, Mr. Teka put together a two-page summation of the survey responses for each of the municipalities. I'd encourage your members to share that with your managers and get it into the agenda. There's some interesting things with respect to what our residents want, what they think we're doing, and how we're doing it. So, nice two-page summary on all of this. So.
Mr. Chair, there'll be an additional page of analysis coming out with the agenda for the February meeting as well, that builds off of that presentation.
Keep it coming, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, Ms. Whitman.
Yes, thank you for the report and the agenda. I'd like to also emphasize, give a shout out to Lydia Newhouser, who I think was the one with the bad cough and left early. She is our AmeriCorps member staff on COG staff, as I understand it. And she's the one heading up the, I'm trying to think what it's called, the, sorry about that, it's a community stewardship network where 5 or 6, 7 people per year are brought on, are highly trained, 6 training sessions, and then are dispersed throughout the community to present or information on climate action options and or be available to ask, to answer questions. So she's been working on that. And I also want to ask everybody here, however, members of the Climate Action Sustainability Committee cannot answer this. So who knows what day we switch over from our old waste hauler to Bergmeister's?
April 1st?
Okay, say it, shout it out.
April 1st?
It's not, okay, good, I'm impressed. The committee did not know that, they know it now. Thank you very much. April 1st, Fool's Day.
April 1st.
But you're gonna get a lot of questions, right?
The first of the carts have arrived. 8,000 carts are here, so that's the authority.
My carts are
So if
better.
you get asked, it's April 1st.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Parks and Recreation Governor and Special Committee, I believe. Mr. Was that the one you had something to add, Mr. Oh, we went over it? Okay.
We'll be meeting in February to carry
On the work that the general forum approved this evening.
Oh, okay. Schloss Center Region Library Board. January meeting was canceled. Next meeting, February 12th. Center Region Parks and Recreation Authority. I don't think we had anyone here from that.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Lord.
Just, I'll point out to the authority, they looked at the Hessfield options as well, and interestingly, they requested that the Parks Capital Committee take on the assignments, as they should, of funding Hessfield and funding the boardwalk. We shall see.
Thank you. That will leave us then with EM Council. Looks like they're meeting us tomorrow. Then that would, if there's no questions, that brings us into matters of record. I do want to point out item F. With the theme of the Change Continues With Us, the 50th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Banquet was held at the Bryce Jordan Center in State College on Wednesday, January 15th. Many of us attended that event. The Patton Township Supervisor Pam Robb was honored as the 2025 Forum on Black Affairs Humanitarian Award, presented by Earl Merritt, Director of the Office Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity in the College of Liberal Arts. Through this award, the Forum on Black Affairs annually honors an individual who has provided outstanding service to African American citizens of Pennsylvania, particularly in communities around Penn State's campus. And Pam's contributions, they were extensive, even to recognition from the governor as well. So just want to congratulate Pam on that award. Any other matters of record anyone wants to point out or
Mr.
add?
Chair, item A has an incorrect date.
Oh. General Forum meeting, oh yeah, well, we'll eventually meet in November, but yeah, our next meeting will be in February, so, sorry, I'm not calling that long of a recess. Anyone else? Anything else to add? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second? All right, we're adjourned. Have a good evening, folks.